Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. As the World Cup comes to an end in North America, things are just getting started for many of our Australian players, particularly those overseas with big transfers, friendly minutes and European qualifiers. Back home, it's very busy as well with new A-League owners and A-League men's fixture, Football Australia's domestic calendar and the round 32 of the Australia Cup. Add in an unresolved collective bargaining agreement and wages being paid late, and there's never a quiet week in Australian football. Is there, Mopper?
No, there isn't. And we also want to obviously say their important message to the Cooney Cross family, for Kyra and all her family, of the sad passing that we had of a mum, Jess, obviously, during the week. So all our thoughts and love are with them all. And it's a very tough time. And some beautiful messages sent out by the Australian football family and all the friends and community. So, all our shared thoughts are with that family right now in a very difficult time.
Yeah, well said, Mopper. I saw all the messages on Kyra's post on social media, and very good that the football family in general and the Australian football family in particular got right behind Kyra. And I pass on my sentiments to the family, and I hope they're all doing very well under the circumstances. All right, Mopper, let's go to some matters domestically to start with, because we spoke about this last week on our episode when we were answering the questions from some of our viewers around Canberra United. And finally, we have some new owners for them, which is great for the security of the women's team in particular.
Oh, so desperately needed. And they can obviously not rest, but be assured that Canberra has a home. We stated last week how, over 42,000 registered players up there and a huge community which football leads up in that Canberra region. And it's just good news for everyone. And you've got to say a big thank you and well done to Capital Football as well, because, last year, this was hanging by a thread last year as well, and they stood up and they've put in a lot of effort to make sure that this Canberra football team has stayed in the Ninja A-League. So congratulations for them as well. And they understand and know that they need more support and help. And it's just good to see Australian Sports, Entertainment and Corporate Consortium have taken the lead, and some very positive press conferences. They said their actions obviously will speak louder than their words, because, obviously they've got a lot to do up there and assemble the side, but at least gives the security of Canberra football team, and looks promising for the men if this works out, Chief, as well in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think firstly for the women's team, we know that the last couple of seasons they've gone pretty much season in, season out, not knowing if they're going to be playing the following season. So as you said, mate, the security for that team, and they have been quite a successful team despite the challenging circumstances that they've been working under. So credit to them for what they've been able to do as well. But just having this long-term security in place for them is absolutely fantastic. And yes, they will have some work to do to put together a roster, which I think a lot of the A-League women's teams tend to do as well, because there tends to be big clean-outs and shorter contracts than we see in the men's game. But no doubt the new owners will get that in order in time for the A-League women's season. And as you said, the men's, or the option for the men's competition is in the 28-29 season. Potentially that's a bit too long in some people's eyes, considering they should have been starting around the same time as Auckland FC. But look, it's better late than never in these circumstances, and at least there's a bit of a roadmap for them, and they can work towards that date and hopefully get a team in the competition in that season.
Yeah, Theo Morris obviously stated too, Chief, building elite academy pathways, investing in local infrastructure and connecting with the Canberra community were their priorities. And I think this is a good start. I think obviously it'd be too early for a men's team. I think you need time to actually build connections. And it's good to see that the women's game is secure there, and the future of the men's has promise. And hopefully the APL too have got some work to do with Central Coast as well, which we'll talk on later. That still remains unresolved. They've got a deadline of the 31st July of the obviously looking for an investor. So it'll be very interesting what happens in that space. And we know Auckland has been talking about trying to push for their women's team to be entered in the competition last year to be heard. So that's obviously on the horizon as well. So a couple of things still to happen in the Women's Ninja A League, and obviously collective bargaining agreement is going to push big for this, because obviously it is not a professional organisation, which obviously we've seen the report that come out about 6 months ago now, in urgent need of change for the women's game to continue to grow and to build on a professional setup. So lots of work in the women's game still to be done in Australian football.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about the Mariners. Obviously, with the new owners coming in and only looking after the men's side of the Central Coast Mariners, and now the women's team left without owners. But hopefully, as you said, that's resolved in the next fortnight or so, and they can keep pushing ahead for the start of the next A-League women's season. And interesting you said about Auckland FC as well, because they've obviously got this pre-season trial or friendly exhibition match against Chelsea coming up as well. So I know that Auckland FC are putting this team together, and it might be a bit of a trial for how they would put themselves about. But we know there's an uneven amount of teams in the competition, so maybe Auckland FC, maybe the following season coming in, will even that out and make it an even stronger competition. But you also mentioned, Mopper, the PFA rejecting the APL's proposal for a collective bargaining agreement. So this is not such positive news. We would hope that all parties would be able to get on board with the seasons not too far away in reality, and I hope that they can come to an agreement sooner rather than later, because it's not the best look heading into the new season.
No, plenty of work to do in this space and plenty of discussion point on these matters, isn't there? And obviously, we want clarity so we can obviously plan ahead. And there's some huge decisions to play out in this space. It was interesting enough watching the influence and impact of what can happen. Like if you look at Sam Kerr's appearance for Gotham over the week, and obviously, Gotham normally averages around 6 to 8,000 on average crowd, and just Sam Kerr's appearance alone packed out a stadium of 42,000. So we know the Matildas' rise and the impact that they can have. So the women's game just needs some solidarity and needs some investment. So hopefully we can see that in the next 3 to 6 months, because it's going to be important that we don't go further backwards than where we are right now.
Yeah, and probably related to the PFA and APL not being able to agree on this collective bargaining agreement. There's lots of noise around the salary cap and the fact that it kind of has dropped over the past couple of years, and that has to do with the broadcast rights as well and the distribution to clubs. Adam Peacock on SEN during the week, he proposed to scrap the salary cap and bring in a salary floor instead. His logic was that it was to the detriment of the game and not allowing the clubs to grow. And he thought that, look, if clubs want to spend more than the cap, they should be able to. His idea on the salary floor was to make sure that clubs aren't underpaying players, and they were, at least hitting some kind of minimum payment based on the output of the player. But what do you make of that? Certainly divided opinion on social media from what I saw.
Well, it goes back to the clubs. So again, we're looking at what's been reported, and this is just media reports. It's not anything factual, that the A-League clubs as a collective are losing anywhere between 40 to 50 million a year collectively as a group. Now, are owners happy to sustain that? That would be the biggest question for them to answer. I think you'd need only the A-League clubs themselves could answer whether they'd want to invest more. So I guess when you look at the ownership and the debt that Australian football's had to carry, that's probably the question mark that you'd have to ask. If you look at it from a competition base, there's no relegation. So yes, some clubs would definitely spend more if they could. There's no doubt about it. And there'd be many benefits of that. But the challenge is like if there's no relegation or there's no risk, then the teams that can't spend much will still be okay and safe because there's no consequence at the bottom of the ladder. But we've also seen the A League present many like moments of where you've seen the Mariners on the smallest budget be one of the most successful A League teams. So look, money doesn't buy everything, but I guess the positive points is if there was a salary cap to be abolished, retention would be a lot easier for the Australian clubs. It'd probably be the key issue because you're only looking at really two key issues that are holding the A League back, I believe, and that is the financial capability of the salary cap not being able to retain players, and the second one would be the long standing of the season. It's just too short, as we all know. So if you abolish the cap, you can reinvest. You'll be able to attract more marquee players, which we've been pushing for, and allow clubs without constraint to really, model their own business and buy who they want to buy. So I think it'd be all in for it as long as the A League clubs are happy to sustain that there's still going to be loss with it probably involved in this because again we've seen the challenges that our broadcast and sponsors aren't bringing enough money in. But does that mean if we invest more with this idea that that would come back and raise and elevate where the A League was probably 10, 15 years ago at its peak?
For me, the only really down point on it is the potential for it to have a segmentation within the competition. Like if the likes of Sydney or Melbourne-based clubs are getting these big investments and able to attract the best Australian talent and some overseas talent that makes them more competitive on the field, and does that leave behind some of the other clubs where they're not going to be able to compete? But as you said, the Central Coast Mariners a couple of seasons ago, pretty low wage budget compared to a lot of others, and they're still very competitive. So it's not, money doesn't solve all the problems. You still have to put all the pieces in place. You still have to make a very good team and a very good squad and be able to play together and get the most out of what you've got for sure. So, and I think to the point of the owners, they're still going to spend what they want. Is if there's a salary floor that gives them a minimum spend, if they still want to spend around about what the salary cap is now, then that's what they're going to do. They're not going. They don't have to invest heavily, but it might just open up more opportunities for different teams, or whether that's through promotion, relegation, or whether that's another franchise coming in. But if you have a big owner coming in and they know that they can only spend a limited amount, they're going to want to throw their weight around a little bit and try to use their wealth to be able to get a team coming in. I've also heard the argument that for, say, a team like Melbourne City, they're able to attract players not just because of the finances, but because of the facilities and because of the expert coaching and all the extra little bits and pieces outside of what you actually get paid on the field to make you a better player. So we're already having this disparity anyway. So I don't mind the idea, and I do get people's argument otherwise, making sure that the league is sustainable for the longer term future. But how long are we going to keep going like this then, where we're just kind of just surviving? Like we need to push the league forward, and I see this as an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether the Football Australia and that think that and take that idea, but I definitely like Adam's comments about the constraints it puts on clubs and holds them back on what they want to spend. We've even seen Australian Championship sides and state league sides. They would do the same due to the investors and the sponsors and the people that want to put into their club. So you can't dismiss that either because there are people that want to invest in football and are restricted and constrained by it due to this salary cap. And like you said, it is an Australian way. You've seen it in the AFL, you've seen it in the NRL, and that's to withhold obviously the finances. But football is different, as you see over the world. It's a different beast and it's a world game. So yeah, it'd be very interesting. Well, look, when will it stop? It's a good point that he raises, but how much really is behind that idea or what the future holds for that? Only a few people would know at the top whether that's on the agenda in the next few years.
I like your point too around the fact that we might be able to keep young Australian players here for a season or two longer if the wages were slightly more. Yes, we have fewer games, which we can't compete with at the moment with clubs overseas, but we've seen so many players move into some of those Southeast Asian markets in the last 12 to 18 months. And maybe if we can tempt players with some slightly higher wages here, you might keep them for a little bit longer and just never know how they might develop and move to that next step. But we do see so many players have one or two solid seasons in the A League, and all of a sudden they're snapped up and gone because we just can't compete with the money anywhere else. And potentially this idea would allow us to have more players stay for that little bit longer. But it'd be fascinating to hear what everyone else thinks about it as well. So drop us a comment on the episode notes, or send us a message via our social media channels during the week. We'd love to hear what everyone thinks of that idea from Adam Peacock that he relayed on SEN during the week. Also during the week, Football Australia released their domestic calendar. And this is an interesting point I found, Mopper, because 16th of October is set to be a very big date with the A-League men, the A-League women, and the Australian Championship all starting on the 16th of October, just after the international break for men and women. So, me being really optimistic, I want to think that this is strategic, and this is so that all different parts of the Australian football landscape, being the APL, Football Australia, can get on board and promote each of these products and use the cross promotion and cross marketing and make sure that everyone who has a vested interest in Australian football is aware that this is when everything is kicking off, and we can get everyone around all three of these competitions and make them aware. It's just after the FIFA international window, so there's perfect opportunity for people coming out to watch the Socceroos, or for tuning in to watch the Matildas play as well, that they can become aware of this. But for me, I hope it's not something where they've just kind of set on a date, and I hope there's a big plan behind it.
Oh, absolutely. Your thoughts are spot on. So look, it's no doubt. I believe it is strategic. They wouldn't come up with this plan unless it had some impact. And I think, like I said last year, we've seen the two changes with the CEOs of the APL and Football Australia. So I think this is the new beginning, and hopefully this resonates with the draw, and that we can see some impacts with crowds. And a perfect time slot, isn't it? October. It's a really good month. End of school holidays though, but the window's open across Australia. The big two codes will be probably wrapped up by then, or nearly wrapped up, and you'll have an open opportunity to promote with the Socceroos, and then hopefully the flow and effect will obviously have that impact.
All right, in terms of fixtures, and we haven't seen anything from the A-League Women's as yet. I suppose that's potentially pending on the Mariners, and once that's secured, we might see a fixture list for that one as well. And then obviously the Australian Championship can't be decided as yet either, because we're waiting on the NPL winners from around the country to join that competition. But what we do have is the A-League men's fixtures, and it's kicking off with a Sydney derby on Friday night, followed by the F3 derby on the Saturday in the opening round. We've also got a few more derbies early on: Melbourne derby in round 2 and the New Zealand derby in round 4, as well as the original rivalry in round 4 as well. So Sydney derby to kick off. Interesting one. A few people said the derby doesn't need to be starting off, and the fact that it's on a Friday night, I don't think that's pleased too many people. I think these big derbies, I think they need to be fixtured on the Saturday night. That's something that we've seen consistently, and I think if we're going to bring kind of history into the A-League men's competition in particular and start to get that tradition, I think you need to leave these games on the Saturday night. But what do you make of all these derbies front loaded into the season? Is that a good thing to get people around it and get excited?
I think they have to try something while the Socceroos and that are out here, and obviously it's all around getting that good start and publicity. I understand what you mean around the fixtures around obviously the Saturday night, but I think this is a push to try to start on the front foot and try to get as much noise as they can to promote the game. And I think you've got to, if you're going out hard, then these are the games that go gangbusters and give you the numbers. So no doubt, again, strategic decision to try to get the A League off to a bigger start as they can.
I really hope it works. I think, I hope that people can get out there for a Friday night. Some people might struggle to get there from work, but I hope it's really well supported. The good thing is that it's at Allianz Stadium, which over the last few years anyway has pulled some bigger crowds than Combank Stadium. So hopefully everyone can get behind it and we can get a big crowd out there to kick off the season. But as I said before, I think it's all going to come around to that 16th of October timing and making sure that everyone's on the same page and we can really pump it up. And if we actually, I think the smart thing to do would be to fixture other games. So the Australian Championship might be kicking off in Melbourne that weekend, and the A-League Women's might be kicking off somewhere else, just so that we're not trying to contest with different crowds. And if you're unable to make one, you can at least catch it up on TV or watch it earlier or later, etc. A few of the other features from the A-League draw is that the festive season is a block in the games with games every day between Boxing Day and January 3. So I think it's a smart move, and particularly around that time when people are off work and potentially looking for some things to do. I think they should do this more and more all throughout the school holidays around Christmas and New Year's, just looking at the kind of big bash model where, you sit down every night, you turn on the TV and there's a game on almost guaranteed. I think they could do that and take care of a few games, potentially. I know the draw's out now, but that's a way to get some more games in around that time, similar to what we see in parts of the other parts of the world, particularly in the UK.
Yep, absolutely. And obviously the bigger leagues would have started to generate in August and September. So I think all the games and the FIFA window leading into this will give us the best publicity that we possibly can at home to push this start of the season. And we know how much Boxing Day and January 3rd obviously means to the Australian public. It's a great time. It's a festive time. It's a time where a lot of people are off. We've seen massive crowds for that, so it's great that that's in a block. And I think this is just, I think they've done everything they possibly can, Chief, to at least get off to a good start in the A-League and present the best draw possible that they can for the A-League to hopefully be a lot more successful this year.
All right, Moppo, we're just going to jump back to a question from Sean that we got during the week. And this was on the back of your idea, Moppo, when you were talking about connecting with some of the other Asian countries and getting some of their big stars out into the A-League to try and boost some of the attendances and connect with some of the local communities. So what have you found for us?
Well, I'd like to say again, great feedback and great follow-up question. They're looking for some big names in Asia that we can attract. Due to our population and our diversity and multiculturalism in the country, we already have seen many international players come out from all sorts of spaces around the world. Mostly Brazilian, English, and Spanish are the ones that have been used the most. We currently have, obviously, in the A-League last year, we had 6 Japanese, 4 English, 4 Welsh, and it goes down from there in numbers. But I feel last week around my question and the feedback to try to attract the authenticity that we have in Australia and crowd numbers is to look at the Asian market for what it is. And a lot of people, as we've seen with Bandiri last week, we spoke about from Wellington, what impact that can have on crowd numbers and the support. So the question around who have we got top 5 that I'd like to target, well, a lot of them are currently under contract, so it's going to be hard for the A-League this year to probably get them, but there's a few next year that possibly might pop up. Now, before we get the Asia players, Chief, I'm just going to start with the Australian and New Zealand, who might possibly be an option next year. And I'm going to start with young Jackson Irvine, who will be obviously has 12 months left on his contract at St. Pauli. Now, that's obviously slightly up in the air with a new coach and obviously their relegation last year, but Jackson Irvine only has 12 months to go. So if we want to look at a marquee Australian, Jackson Irvine will be on the market next year when his contract ends. So maybe we have to look ahead. And there's a Kiwi that we all know that's played in the Premier League for a long time, and that is Chris Wood. He's only got 1 year left as well. So possibly these are the types of prototype of players that we need back in the country in the A-League if we want crowds to follow, or really from a New Zealand point of view, can you imagine Auckland or Wellington signing Chris Wood? It would really boost their numbers. And we've seen Auckland already with a 14,500 average crowd last year. Imagine Chris Wood adds another 5 onto that and you look at a season average of 20 and have very ambitious owners. Not to say Wellington couldn't do the same if that's where a possible option or landing spot will be for Chris Wood. Let's
Chris
look at
Wood
the
born
Asian.
in Auckland, mate. I don't think he'd be going to Wellington.
Well, you never know. The football market speaks a lot of languages. Let's look at our population. So we know we've got plenty of English, Scottish, Irish. We've obviously got a lot of Indonesian supporters out here. We've seen a lot of people from China, Vietnam. So there's a lot of good ethnicity and diversity around Australia who love the game of football. Indonesia. I looked at a few Chinese players and like, who would I have? Well, there's probably one that I'd like, but a lot of these Chinese players are under contract and longer development in 2028 to 2029. I'm talking about Wu Li, who was regarded as their best player, but unfortunately, Kevin Muscat's got him under wraps at Shanghai Port. Zhang Yung, he's a strong talent and consistent goal scorer as well, but they're all under contract, unfortunately, in the next year or two. But these are the marquee players I'd like. And we have tried a lot of players from Asia, but not at the top echelon that I think we can target in the future. So don't forget Vietnam also have some great players, and like there's just history there that I think would attract a lot more players. Because I'm going to just pause there for a second and look at Adelaide's opponents, who we all know are coming up in the Asian Champions League, and they're building, and they've got Stefan Mork there. We've heard a lot from him over in that country, and they've got a Champions League qualifier coming up, and they've just signed Spanish midfielder, Demar Sabater, and they've got Stefan Mork signed from the loan from Adelaide, and they just keep building. Got a few Brazilians in there, and Adelaide, all we're seeing Adelaide doing is exiting players, and yet that team is just building. So we've just got to be stronger in this market if we want to compete. Let's look at Zhang Jianing. He's a Chinese footballer. He's 29. He's at Beijing Guan. He's another player that would be heavily followed in China. So, unfortunately, with the Chinese players, they're all heavily under contract in China. So I'm not sure of their contract obligations, and we'd only get them obviously if their contract expires. Another footballer I'd talk about, J. Noah Idez, a professional footballer. He plays in the Serie A. He's an Indonesian national team member. His contract, though, again, goes to 2029, unfortunately. But these are the kind of star players that are around and available if in the future we could go for them. We've also got an Indonesian footballer, Marcelino Fernandez Philippus. Now, very well-known Indonesian attacking midfielder. But he actually plays for the English Championship, Oxford United, who got relegated last year, and is in League One and got loaned out. So there's an opportunity if we took a look at some of these players and what they could offer. So there's obviously a couple of Japanese players I thought could be handy, Chief. And I'm going to go down to this, not young fellow anymore, but he is an absolute star, and that's Nagatomo, who's the central defender, and Sato. There's a couple of the players that possibly we could get. His contract actually ends in the J League. I know he's 39, but possibly Nagatomo, why not get him at the end of December? His contract ends. That Japanese absolute superstar. I know he's on the 39 ripe age, but again, it attracts interest. So there's some of the players that I've found around Asia that obviously the first half, yes, they're not probably available, but the second half, there's a couple of there that might just spring some interest if we looked at our multicultural ethnicity country to get into and see if we can actually have a look or discuss these tactics, because we have brought these players in before, but we need a higher profile in that market.
Yeah, good call, mate. Yeah, great homework you've done there, and like even Auckland FC bringing in Hiroki Sakai, pretty sure he was fresh out of the J League. So these types of transfers are achievable, and even if you've got them on loan, for example, like for half a season, you just never know what might happen with these ones. But perhaps you and I might keep a bit of a close eye on the Asian Cup and see if there's any players from other countries when they're playing in that tournament that we might be able to have a look at and bring out here for a few of the A-League clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's plenty of stars out there. You've just got to look, and you look at every state that I look at with their census and population demographic being born overseas or having the ancestry. It's definitely a market, if we're smarter on, that we can really tap into. I think the Asian market is right there at our doorstep, and I think we've seen a lot of Australian players go over, like you touched on, Vietnam, Indonesia, and even coaching over there. It'd be great to see if we could leverage back and use some of the guest players or marquee players in the Asian market, considering the European market is such a financial gap now that we look at the market that's right near our door.
All right, Mopper, let's go to some transfer activity. And this one just announced in the last hour or so, but Patrick Beach has been rumoured for a while and now confirmed that he's off to Troyes in France, obviously making the move from Melbourne City. And this has been heavily rumoured for a while on the back of his outstanding performance at the World Cup. Very well warranted, and a lot of Melbourne City fans very concerned about him leaving. And look, he's staying within the City football group and he's off to France to see what he can do.
Yeah, look, when I first seen Troyes, I thought, what's he going to Troyes? But then I thought, oh, yep, that's right. They were relegated the year before because Snorbo had them, and yeah, they didn't have a good year. They went down, but they've bounced straight back up. But it's within the Man City group, and that's probably the main reason why he's gone to Troyes. Straight back in, promoted, and I looked at their keeper situation, Chief, and it's not really healthy. They've let one goalkeeper go already. They got Mark Anthony on the books. It's only in the youth reserve team. Zaki Aboucher, you'd say probably is their potential number one, or Kanate, but they haven't played many games, and I think this is a perfect fit for a starting place. He will start, no doubt, looking at the quality that Troyes actually have on the books for the goalkeepers. And I think this is a good move for football, being in League One earn over in France. It'll give him great experience, and obviously Man City will keep him under contract and wraps as they move him around the world to hopefully something potentially bigger in the future. But I think you've just got to see Patrick Beach needs game time. Does this guarantee him game time? Well, he's going to get a hell of a shot if he performs over there. And what better way to do it than one of the top five leagues in Europe? It's probably not the bigger clubs that sort of probably some people are thinking of, but I think for his development, it's a smart move.
Well, it's going to be similar to what Matty Ryan faced this season, isn't it? At Levante, and if they're just promoted, there's a chance that they're gonna be down the bottom of the table, and he's gonna get plenty of work. But what about some of the superstar players that he's gonna come up against in Liga? And what a fantastic opportunity this is for Patrick Beach. We've said it before, but go back 2 A-League seasons ago when he was a surprise inclusion into the Melbourne City team ahead of Jamie Young, and it's just gone from strength to strength now, obviously on the back of this World Cup, and he's ready to make his move overseas. And look, if he gets consistent game time, no doubt that he'll be keeping that number one spot for the Socceroos as well. But that's going to be his big challenge, a new environment for him, and see how he goes. And let's hope that he can perform really, really well over there.
Yep, absolutely. Look, the biggest thing that we want and we see when players go overseas is if they play. And look, I'm pretty confident that Troy's have brought him in for this clear reason. So we wish him all the best. Can't wait to follow his career over there, and to see where it actually, lands him in the future. I think it's a great learning curve and stepping stone. So we've seen many moves like this as Man City move their players around overseas to bigger and better things.
Yep, well said, mate. All right, let's. There's heaps of transfers to get through, so we're just gonna try and give a few words to each of them. But Charlie Grant has gone from Tottenham to Malmo back in Sweden. She's previously been there over in Sweden before. She's landed there with a couple of her Matilda's teammates, but look for Charlie Grant. She just seriously needs some game time. She was very limited with her game time at Spurs, and then she obviously picked up that nasty injury as well. So fingers crossed, Charlie Grant can get some game time over there and become a viable option. She can play kind of either side in those fullback spots for the Matildas, and be good for Joe Montemurro to have her at his disposal as an option.
Yep, just needs to play football, needs to get games, gone to the right country to do so, and the right club where she's had success in that country before. And I think it's just smart move and to really reset because yeah, she's missed a lot of football over the last few years. Waiting in the wings and being behind certain players and at clubs. So good move for Charlie. We wish her all the best in that one.
Teddy Yengi has gone to Machida Zelvia. He was obviously there on loan from Livingston last season, but he's now on a permanent deal over in Japan. Mitch Duke has also moved over to Machida Zelvia, but of the two, you would expect Teddy Yengi to start, and it will be interesting with his surprise selection into the Socceroos World Cup squad to see what he might be able to do in the J League this season.
Yep, he was banging in goals last year in Scotland, moved over because of his brother, and obviously hit the ground running, didn't he, with Asian Champions League success. Got all the way to the end. Unfortunately, they went down, but played a massive part with a goal in the semi-final. Look, Teddy Yangi, he got great exposure with the World Cup squad. He was brought in late, didn't disappoint, did he? He was looking fantastic when he on the limited time that he did get for the Socceroos. Sets up for a full pre-season in the J League with a full season ahead. So big things, I think, for Teddy Yangi. I think he'll play a massive role over there, and it'd be great to see him amongst it in the J League and a good competition.
All right, next one is Callum Elder. He's gone from Derby to newly promoted Lincoln City. And they smashed it in League One last year, Lincoln City, and they'll be trying to do their best to stay in the championship. And they've picked up a very experienced left fullback in Callum Elder.
Yeah, he started nearly every game. He obviously had that bad injury run at the end there, but yeah, good. Look, I think it guarantees him the left wing back or left back spot for Lincoln. Good club. I think it just keeps his football going, doesn't it? He's been in the championship. He's a professional. So yeah, good move. Interesting they left Derby though. So but anyway, if obviously it's football related, so that's what we like to see our players go to good football clubs that they're going to play. So Callum Elder will bring a lot of experience to that Lincoln side.
We've also got Mark Natta, who's gone to Cesena in Serie B in Italy. So another one of the Newcastle Jets. We thought this might happen, didn't we? That they're getting torn apart with these transfers, but that's what happens when you bring success to your club. But it's probably a decent level for Mark Natta, and he'll no doubt want to be bringing Cesena up from Serie B into Serie A into the following season.
Yeah, mid-table team, come 11th last year, but I think great move. I think going to that level and starting in that is a great platform for a very steady team. I think it's a great move. To get exposure over there at that level is going to be good. There's going to be plenty of cup games as well that they'll be involved in, which he'll get to show his stuff. And he's still young, so I think great move. I'm really impressed with a lot of these moves that they're going to football first. You can see that that's the mindset now, and that's what's good about these players moving.
We've also seen Jacob Chapman go to St Mirren. Speaking of limited game time, he was kind of bouncing around. He did get a decent run of games at Huddersfield a season or two back, where there were some injuries, and he performed pretty well. But I think he's pretty young. He's probably only still 25, 26 or so. as a keeper, and they go on forever. So he's got plenty of game time left in him, but probably maybe dropping back slightly a level to St Mirren, but he'll join Keanu Bacchus over there, and they've got some European football obviously as well after winning the cup. So no doubt there'll be plenty of games for him to feature in there as well. We've also got Dan Hall. He's gone from Auckland FC to JEF United Chiba in the J League. So positive move for Dan Hall.
Yeah, I think any player going to J League, technical wise, it's going to improve you. And I like this. I like players looking at Japan, and it's just a really good league over there. Lots of football games. They've restructured their competition to match it with Europe. So, yeah, no, great move, I think, for Dan Hall, and good club too. Nice, solid club. So, good luck to Dan.
Yep. His Auckland FC teammate for last season, Jake Gilbert Reich, he was still on the books of St. Louis City, but he's gone to Motherwell over in Scotland. So, yeah, interesting move for Jake as well. So, he joins a host of Aussies and Kiwis over at Motherwell as well. So, I saw something during the week that's renamed them the Motherroos, I think. Plenty of
There's
Aussies
four
on
of
the
them.
books there. But yeah, but I think they've got Europe as well next season, I think. So exciting times ahead for Jake.
Yeah, they were right up there, weren't they? They're very competitive, challenged the top three, didn't they? They just fell off a little bit at the end, but they were right in a lot of games last year and performed very well at the top half of the Scottish Premier League. So, yeah, good move there. I think it's a good, steady club.
All right, Ella Tonkin has gone to Turin's in Portugal. And we've also seen a couple of youngsters signing some big deals over in Europe as well. Now, these guys are dual nationals, but fingers crossed we can get them in an Australian jersey soon. Max Anastasio has signed for AC Milan, and we've also seen Yunus Ibrahim signing his first professional contract with Brighton.
Yeah, interesting one, isn't it? Max, obviously from Marconi, so Marconi will be absolutely stoked. He went over to Italy the previous year and has been working around the U Franks over there. So, massive club to sign for, isn't it? AC Milan, so a lot of prestige in that. It'll be very interesting to see how his career develops over there and where he plays his junior football nationally as well. Obviously, will get great recognition being an AC Milan player. It's hard for the youngsters, isn't it? Because you don't normally see many succeed when they go to those big clubs. But I'm sure lots of loan moves, lots of in the youth system. He'll get the best coaching at the highest level. So I guess we'll watch this journey and see how it progresses. But yeah, a lot of prestige in signing for AC Milan. So well done to Max. He'd be absolutely jumping for and be buzzing just to get around that stadium and the training facilities over there. So fantastic work. And yeah, look, Eunice, first professional contract Brighton. We've seen a few Aussies at Brighton, haven't we? And obviously another one coming through the ranks. And we know Brighton progresses young players and looks for young talent. So they always get opportunities at Brighton. So that'll be a good one. Looking forward to see him progress again through the ranks to see if he can crack it around that first team.
The A-League men's joint Golden Boot winner Luki Ivanovic has gone from Adelaide United to the San Jose Earthquakes, another Aussie in the MLS.
Yeah, that's a massive move, isn't it? They've got some good players there. They're coming currently second in the competition. They're on fire, and Preston Judd is their number one striker over there. He's already scored plenty of goals. Tino Werner's obviously there as well. Yeah, they've
He
got
can't
some.
score though.
Well, he's scored four times. Buda as well. They play a 4-2-3-1 system. So maybe Luki Ivanovic might be, in the running for one of those, wider or behind the nine, because obviously Judd's the man that they play up front, and it's been very successful with those 11 goals. So, look, good club. I think Bruce Arena, I think coaches there as well, the former American coach as well. So that's a very successful
Mm.
club. So he's put himself in a very tough environment. But if you want to crack it, he's yeah, I don't know if he's going to get much opportunity maybe in the first year, but you never know. He's pretty competitive young fella. So we'll see how he goes.
Maybe a similar path that Archie Goodwin's taken as well, taken a bit of time to get into the system, and hopefully this season, he's gonna get plenty more game time.
Yeah, I'd hope Archie does, but the competition over in America is getting harder and harder. So, yeah, it's a lot more players over there now. So, it'd be very interesting first step. But again, there, there's plenty of games and there's plenty of teams, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And hopefully, like you said, we'll get some opportunities.
Adelaide reportedly got a seven-figure fee, for him, and what about the production line that they just keep producing these youngsters? But as you said before, they've got a tough fixture coming up against Kong and Hanoi in the Asian Champions League too, so hopefully there's a few other talented young South Australians that, are ready for the next step up.
Yeah, well, we've seen a few last year, and yeah, that I think that Asian Champions League, I think it's August the 11th, if I'm right. That's coming up very quick. It's only 3 weeks away now, and I see the other side building and the other side and Adelaide losing players. But as you said, they have a pipeline. Yeah, it'd be very interesting. They've still got some experienced players there. Craig Goodwin obviously will lead that line with Burkett maybe, and we'll just see the new rising. Adelaide, like you said, just keep producing, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, a couple more transfers. We've seen Ryan Strain go to Falkirk. Interesting for Ryan Strain. Obviously, we've got a bit of a dearth of options at both the left and right wing back spots for the Socceroos at the moment. So, well, wonder whether he can push his case for some game time for the Socceroos with some consistent game time for Falkirk, who were pretty good last season. They surprised that they came up with Livingston, but performed so much better than Livingston did in the Scottish Premiership last season.
Yep, they finished in the top half and they competed in the top half at the end of the season when it broke away. So they come sixth in the end. Did leak a lot of goals though, 62. Obviously had one of the worst defence other than Livingston, but you expect that coming up that they'd leak goals. But Ryan Strain brings a lot of experience, and I think that's a smart move staying in the Scottish Premier League.
What do you make of the just quickly on the wing-back spots for the Socceroos? Obviously, these games against Brazil, roughly about 10 weeks away for these games, and obviously Jordy Boss, Lewis Miller, Jacob Italiano, all unfit. Is this a chance to maybe look at some different options?
I'd definitely be the perfect opportunity to look at options, especially with our formation, but not sure if we're going to see it. Look, I think it gives an opportunity to the younger group. I've expressed here that Daniel Benny is a breakout star, and whether right wing back is his probably natural position. He can play high, can play lower if he needs to, but he is a free flowing player that would definitely could fit into that role. James Overy is another youngster, whether that's probably too young, but hey, what if you're good enough, why not? He would be another one down the right side. So, but he has played on the left side for the 20s as well in that World Cup. So there are some options with Benny and Overy. We've seen Karacic obviously unfortunately missed out like three times, picked in the squad, but missed out a few times due to injury. Ryan Strain could definitely play a part. He's an experienced defender. Why not use him? He's there. But again, from a formation wise, if you didn't want to go down that path, you'll never get a better opportunity to look at another system and still play the three at the back, but maybe as you do play four midfielders in there with the 6 to 10 and the 2 8s possibly as an option. Would we be brave enough, or whether we want to evolve? This is the perfect window, isn't it? And we'll probably lead with all the conversation heading into those friendlies that have been announced against Brazil and Uruguay. What would you do, Chief?
I've seen even well, I've seen even Marcus Eunice being floated as an idea of a right wing back, maybe a more progressive one, but he's back at Brøndby now and playing, scoring goals as well. So it really depends on what you want to do with it. If you want to keep it as more of a defender who can get forward, or do you want to play an attacker who can defend a little bit as well? So, because if you're playing an attacker who can defend, yes, of course, it puts in the likes of Benny and Eunice down that side as well. But if you want a fullback that can get forward, well, you're looking at different options. Like even on the left, I know we've got Bajic, but, how many do we keep having to go back to Bajic, or are there new players coming through with Geordie Boss there? We know Casey Boss is an option. He wasn't
Yeah.
in his team squad last night, but obviously he's just new at the club, or Callum Elder's just at a new club. There are some options out there, but it just depends how much Popper wants to experiment with this squad before the Asian Cup, I suppose.
I think the concern for me is because we're playing different systems too in the 23s, 20s, 17s, we're not naturally producing or developing players into that position. It's only at that top echelon where we're using wing backs. Most of the other teams play four at the back. So it's not like the next generation is being trained or developed in this space. So it'll be very interesting whether we evolve our formation or whether we continue to look down at that youth system where there are a couple of young players, like you said, Casey Boss, Benny, and what with Overy as well, which we discussed. Is this their time? 12 months out to really, or not even 12 months, but 6 to 8 months out to give them a crack to see whether they can provide that depth and cover for when Boss does come back.
Yeah, throwing out two more names there. The youngsters like Jacob Farrell has been touted. I know he probably needs to get his body right and get consistent game time at Portsmouth as well. But yeah, like it's an option there for Rafael Borges Rodriguez on the right. There are some options there, but it just depends which way Popovich is likely to go for these games against Brazil. Just finalising the transfers for the week. There's been a lot of them. Grace Johnson, what about this one? Moving from Perth Glory to Charlton, who are newly promoted into the WSL. What a move that is.
Love it. And Charlton performed very well in the league below last year, obviously gaining promotion. What a great opportunity for Grace. It again recognising the great talent of women's football over here. So great move. And look, there's a lot of Aussie girls either in that Women's Super League and just below now in that championship as well. So great opportunity for Grace to really show her what her worth, and it'll give her great exposure as she develops her career.
All right, let's finish off with a bit of on-field stuff. Overnight, we saw Zach Sapsford score and assist in a man-of-the-match performance for Dundee United. Lockie Rose also scored for his new club, and Josh Rawlins got some minutes for them as well. So Zach Sapsford doing whatever he possibly can to put his name forward. Surely he gets a look in the next international window.
We said that last one, but
Yeah.
you never know, Chief. You never know. I reckon if he can forge ahead this year in the Scottish Premier League, yes, you're probably right. He might get a look in. Well, he's not going to get a better opportunity, was it, with the friendlies that are coming up, high-rated nations. So yeah, we wish Zach all the best. He had I reckon, a good hit out last year in the Scottish Premier League. It was his first year overseas, and I thought he acquitted himself quite well. And he'll adapt now, and I think he'll grow, and hopefully he can really nail down that spot at Dundee and have a really good year.
Yeah, I mean, these preseason games against championship side, and they are preseason, but look, goals are goals and confidence is confidence. So let's hope he can continue performing, and nice to see Lockie Rose get on the score sheet too for his new club. Another player I think he's in some Socceroos contention is Gianni Stensnesmopper. Played 90 minutes as Viking lost 1-0 midweek, and then overnight played another 90 in a 2-1 win. His side, Viking, obviously defending champions in Norway, they sit second, 1 point behind first with 3 games in hand. So having another strong season, Viking. And Gianni Stenson, certainly, I think he's an option there, probably as a backup to either Harry Suter or Alessandro Ciccardi.
Yeah, former Central Coast Mariner Academy, did play for the Central Coast Mariners and a little bit with Wellington Phoenix. That's 72 caps now for Viking, and he's also represented Australia and New Zealand at youth level, but he is an Australian because he was capped twice. So he has played for the Socceroos a couple of times. So, yeah, look, he's definitely, I reckon, right in there in the mix, isn't he? And we've got some depth there. And if we play three at the back, he's certainly an option. I think if he continues for Viking, he'll definitely push his claims to be around that mark. And he's going to be probably 4 or 5 players that are going to be around that mark because there's plenty of depth coming through, which is good.
Absolutely. All right, over in England, we've seen some match time for Hayden Matthews, and I believe Tommy Waddingham got some time on the field as well, as Pompey lost 2-0 to Aldershot Town. But I think for all those boys at Pompey this season, the main thing is they get their bodies right and they stay on the field.
Yeah, they had a very interrupted year last year, didn't they? And the year before for a couple of them. Lots of players at Portsmouth, so a lot to watch out for there. And yeah, look, hopefully they can cement some spots. So in and out when they were in the side for Portsmouth, and Portsmouth in the championship. So plenty of football in the championship. So we'll watch how this preseason goes, and fingers crossed their bodies are going to be good for a good hit out this year, and we can see plenty of time. Hayden Matthews was another one that was right in the Socceroos team, wasn't he? And fell out of contention late due to that injury disrupted season last year.
Marco Tilio has also scored the opening goal in Rapid Vienna's 4-1 win over Panathinaikos. Let's hope that he can have a solid season over in Austria this season. Noah Skoko, son of Josip Skoko, he started as Hajduk Split progressed to the next round of Europa League qualifying despite losing 2-1 to MSK Zelina. So highly touted Noah Skoko. Be interesting to see if he gets to look in any of the Australian teams in the future. And you mentioned Sam Kerr before, mate. What an outstanding debut that was for her with Gotham FC.
Oh yeah, look, average crowds was at 8,000, and Sam Kerr rolls in the town, and bang, 42,000 plus turned out. They're a very competitive team, Gotham City. They're right up there in the league as well. And yeah, she signed a long-term contract and to 2030, I believe. And once again, the Sam Kerr show rolls on. She is an absolute superstar of Australian football and women's football in the world. And what an entrance Sam Kerr's made to her home, or new home, or returning home, whichever way you want to look at it. So we wish Sam all the best over there. And yeah, she's still got it, hasn't she? Pulls everybody together, doesn't she, Sam Kerr? What an iconic player she is.
She's an absolute superstar, mate. Also in the NWSL, Mackenzie Arnold makes 4 saves, but her Portland go down 2-0. And in China, John Aloisi's side continue to fly at the top of the Chinese Super League. Ross Aloisi's Zhejiang Professional, and they scored a late winner during the week to record a 3-2 victory. And unfortunately, Shanghai Port, Muscat's team is still sitting around mid-table, but challenging season for all of them with some of those point deductions at the start of the season. And let's round off, Mupper, with some Australia Cup action, which kicked off during the week, and there's some more games coming up this week. RP Leica recorded a 2-1 win over Peninsula Power. We also saw SD Raiders pick up a win over Rochdale Rovers 2-1. Marlon Coast Rangers, I believe they're a team from far north Queensland. They unfortunately went down 4-0 to Brunswick Juventus. Some nice goals in that game, actually, from Brunswick Juventus. And FK Beograd, they've gone down 3-2 to North Sunshine Eagles. But yeah, good to see these teams hitting it out, and the A-League teams will be starting to be introduced in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got Preston and Newcastle Jets. What a fixture that's going to be down in Steel Stadium down there. Preston, we know, very famous club down there, and Newcastle Jets, the holders, the defending champions. And we also got the runners-up Heidelberg away to Cumberland this week as well on Tuesday. So yeah, Channel 10, Paramount, YouTube, get behind it, get out there to your local clubs because football is back. And the Australian Cup, we seen some great games last year, didn't it? And we went on a journey with Newcastle and Heidelberg, so we'll see the A-League teams how they fare, and we'll see what's underneath the A-League as they get their opportunity on the big stage.
Yeah, we've also got Perth in action during the week as well as Sydney FC. So some challenging fixtures for those A-League teams as they come back to their full season training. Mopper, we can't let this episode fly by without getting your prediction for the World Cup final. Argentina versus Spain. Who you got?
Oh, Spain on penalties. This is going down all the way to the end. Can't, but I'm so glad we've got two great football nations that play football. I think and coached by their own countrymen as well. So yeah, it's going to be exciting, isn't it? It's going to be a great football game. But Spain on penalties for me, Chief. I don't think they can be split, these two.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating tie. I'm going to go with Spain to take a 1-0 lead and Argentina to come back and win 2-1, either in regular time or in extra time. They've just done it so many times this competition, and I think they might have one more left in them. But I agree, I think it's a fascinating game against two very tight teams, and let's hope we see some fantastic football tomorrow morning.
Oh, no doubt we will, and the show will end, but it'll be a big show to end on, won't it? Well, with all the hype and all the entertainment that is coming along with this World Cup final. So yes, massive games. All eyes will be glued at 5 a.m. for that kickoff. So what a journey the World Cup is, and yeah, woof, it's been a long tournament, but it's been a good one.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, mate. All right, thanks for your time this evening. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back same time next week. But in the meantime, enjoy your football.
All the best.